So I wanted to ask you, we were discussing a little bit earlier right now about the younger bands and how hard that's going to be for them. Let's say, for example, someone like Kiss. Right now it's supposed to be their end of the road tour, their farewell tour. Obviously, this is going to put a halt to that. Do you think Kiss would pick up that tour once this is done, or do you think this is going to just abruptly end things for them?
No, I don't. I think they will pick it up. I mean, their tour ended in America with, I think, 2 or 3 shows left before its scheduled end date. So there were about 3 shows they didn't play because of the virus that I know they've already announced they're going to make up maybe sometime next year. I don't know. I mean, they had stuff internationally as well. I don't know what they're going to do about that.
I was speaking with Eddie Trunk a few days ago, and we were talking about the Kiss farewell tour and how long this virus may go, which obviously how long will that tour be delayed? What are your thoughts on the outlook of that tour?
Well, me being kind of one of those peripheral guys, in the Kiss world, if I knew something that wasn't official, I wouldn't share it anyway. But I don't. I'll be quite honest. I don't think they know what they're going to do. But I've been saying this for quite a while since this happened. The world really wants that final goodbye with Kiss. And if they lose 6 months or even more, and we don't know, okay, of that tour that they always planned due to the safety issues and this virus, why wouldn't they extend it? Why couldn't they extend it?
The interesting thing when you use Kiss as an example is that's a band that has given a hard end date now to their career. They announced to fans a specific date next year that will be the final ever show they play, if you believe that. And so that's an interesting sort of deal, because if they decide to make everything up that's been postponed, that could end up going beyond what they thought their end date is. So I don't know if they move their end date or they cancel those shows and don't make them up. I mean, I think all options are on the table. And given, of course, everybody likes to, have some fun with Kiss, being that they're such business-minded people. But I think, given that this has been a pandemic that nobody could have accounted for, no matter what scenario they choose, I think it's more than understandable if they can the dates and stay with the hard end date, or if they say, you know what, we're going to just move the hard end date 6 months out because we want to make up these shows we didn't do.
I mean, that date was put out there when the world was the way we knew it, okay? And the world is no longer the way we knew it. So I think that they'd have a very, very easy pass from everybody, and they would do well. Now, age is not helping, okay? Let's just say, hypothetically, it was a year. How much more did they want to do? And they still had a good year, almost a year and a half left, to tour. And you remember they missed that Australian tour when Paul had a flu or something, that happened. So they would want to make that up, So I don't know. And I don't think whatever they planned on July 21st, 2021, I don't think the venue was holding them accountable. You know what I mean? If they want to move it or change it. Okay. So my guess is they don't know. We'll see what happens. But I think they really could and should probably just adjust to when the situation is more manageable, understandable, and then see where they feel how they would do it.
So again, I'm sure they're just trying to figure it out. I mean, as we speak right now, the big thing that everybody in America is waiting to hear about in the rock community is this tour of Def Leppard and Motley Crue that was called the Stadium Tour, going out, scheduled to start in Florida in mid-June. Now, we've seen major events and major festivals scheduled for July already canceled. The fact that this is not yet canceled is amazing to people, or at least been postponed. But I don't think personally there's any way in hell it happens as planned. I think at the very best case scenario, it's postponed. But that's the other sort of strange thing about all this as it's been happening, is how promoters, bands, agents are dealing with it. Because I know for a fact there have been events that were absolutely not being postponed or canceled, but they didn't announce them to the public until a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after they were already knew internally it wasn't going to happen. And nobody can quite figure out the reason for that, except for it might be having to do with, well, if it's postponed, they want to announce new dates at the same time. They want to still try to sell tickets until the last minute to then postpone it. I don't know. But there's been a lot of examples, very strange examples of that, where like even when you look at Kiss, their last show was the show they were supposed to play that got the first one to get canceled was in Tulsa. And the local news had footage of them leaving the night before, and the guitar player in David Lee Roth's band, the opening act, posted on Facebook the night before the gig that the tour was canceled. And they didn't announce that cancellation until like 4 hours before doors the next day. So you got the opening act saying the tour's over, we're going home. You got local news showing the band loading out the night before, but the public not being told until that afternoon. So strange stuff like that. I mean, and there's many other examples with festival level shows where there's been festivals that I've known were not going to happen, and they wait a week, 2 weeks more before they pull it. And I can only think it's just behind the scenes trying to figure out if there's insurance issues, how they're going to process refunds, a variety of different things at a business level that I'm sure play into that as well. So it's really hard. Everybody's just trying to figure it out and do the best they can. I think what Bon Jovi did very recently was a very, very class move, because he announced the cancellation of his tour with Bryan Adams in America. And he said he was announcing it this far out because he wanted Ticketmaster to be able to process refunds for everybody who wanted them, because he's like, right now people need income for food and survival and all that. He said, I want to make sure people get their money back. That's a big talking point on my show right now. And it's a big thing going on here where with postponed shows, the option of a refund. And it's a very controversial thing, which I think is finally swaying to the right place, which is giving people that option to get their money back if they need it.
That's very nice of him. Do you know if they're going to reschedule the tour, Bon Jovi and Bryan Adams?
Well, I don't know if Bryan Adams will stay on it, but the tour is going to, I'm sure John will go back out at some point, but his thing was, I'm not going to string this out to the last minute. I know these shows aren't going to be able to happen. Let's get the money back to the people.
I do think that bands that do residencies will kind of be in a better position, if you get what I mean, because at least they're not traveling. Although I don't think anyone's quite figured out, and I've had this discussion with my keyboard player, Tim, you met from Grand Funk, like, it's not fair. It might be musical concerts are the last thing to be, you know what I mean, okay to do. You know what I mean? Yeah. And including travel. I mean, I could not believe when I would be looking at my flights were getting my future flights, even in late February, when I would look at them to manage like my seating arrangement for Delta, how, wait a minute, that flight was sold out 2 weeks ago. And then all of a sudden half the plane is empty. Oh, I just moved up to the seat I wanted. You get what I mean? Now, of course, you're lucky when a flight has like 20 people on, okay? And then I get the emails from the airlines saying like, moving forward, we're not going to be booking middle seats. Well, it still doesn't really give you 6 feet in between. You know what I mean? But wow, you know what I mean? They're going to get a government bailout and they'll figure it out. But the shit show is just, that's something that like makes my head turn into jelly. You know what I mean? Because I know what it is to fly every weekend. I get the nature of airlines and how they do their work. And I don't, I have good friends with a Southwest pilot who loves guitar and Kiss, and I give him lessons. And he's a really, really cool guy. And it's so funny. I go, how many people are on your flight? Well, there was 12 going, to Chicago and coming back. You know what I mean? And I'm like, what? But then he's got all the medical supplies on the flight. He's been sharing on social media the testing, which is really been a very sad situation in the whole world. There are a few countries, they probably don't have the population of America, that have gotten that under control where they were able to test enough. Now you can buy a mask from anywhere. You notice that, you couldn't find a mask, and now everybody and their grandmother's making them, you know what I mean? The beautiful ones that Lisa and I, is from, her son's wife, Megan made these beautiful masks for us. Thank God. And I got another, friend of mine who's a KISS fan who's mailing me a few. I've got the offer about the KISS mask, I don't really need to advertise my KISS connection that way, but I'm still, just the testing needs to be done. We're going to need those tracing people. And what happens if we get the dreaded second wave, or next year could be even worse? Oh my, So I don't know. That's why the things I can, and here's a good, kind of like something to own if you can and wrap your head around it. The things you can control that are good for you, that make you productive and feel creative and feel good. I'm very proud of you for jumping into this right away. You approached me quite a while ago, and I wasn't ready because my brain was melted, but now I am. But those things are really important to do when you're in these kind of situations. And that's all about adapting. Those are the silver linings of something that came out of nowhere that you never expected, And economically, I know some people, not because they don't care. They always lived kind of, week to week or month to month, and they're hardworking people. But what are they going to do? You know what I mean? I'm at that age where I always looked at things like I was already saving for the oh shit moment. You can't play guitar or something, and you still have bills, right? So my pain is not the same as someone month to month, but still I'm working harder than ever. And I hope that those people can figure out what to do, in some way, to get through this.
Were you on tour when you got the news that you can't do this anymore? Like, how did you get this news broken to you?
It's a great question. First of all, I do watch news, and I was aware of things going on in China, and I have a dear friend there who's a musician that I knew from New York, who wound up doing business there many, many years ago, like 30 years ago. And he married a Chinese woman who was lovely. They were at our wedding in 2014. And what's interesting about Kenny was he's in Shanghai, so he wasn't affected kind of like that area in Wuhan. But China very much clamped down. It's a very serious society because it's communist rule. And if they say you're going to stay home, you're going to stay home. You know what I mean? So I was reaching out to him, what's going on there? And he's like telling me. And then Lisa and I felt that we were a little ahead of the curve with the severity, or thinking that this could happen here, okay? Because a virus doesn't know, like, oh yeah, I don't want to go to, I'm not going to land in New York. No, of course. You know what I mean? This can travel. So all the crazy stuff that he shared with me that I completely was like, you got to be kidding me. What do you do when they deliver a box? Are you kidding me? You know what I mean? And he was explaining how things were going, and that was way before it became very real in North America and the U.S. So I was aware of that, and we were thinking about it. So the last gig with Grand Funk, and I know you've met the guys, and we've been so tight for 20 years now. This is our 20th year. I remember the conversation. It was Atlantic City, a really, really fun showroom called at the Tropicana Casino, which is a pretty decent one for Atlantic City, actually. And, we had another sold out show, but our entire conversation in the dressing room was about viruses and what could happen and what would happen and who knows. And I know at a gig, none of us want to get into a really negative type of thoughts. I know Max, the singer, he doesn't want to hear anything negative. He's got to go out there and entertain, and he's right. So we kept it kind of, positive. That week, I came home on Sunday from Atlantic City. Tuesday, Lisa and I went to Burbank, California, and flew there. I was nervous about flying that day too. I was wiping down everything on the flights to Atlantic City back home, because I knew, again, more from my friend China and less about like how serious, even though the dialogue was happening about this virus. And I had to go to ESP Guitars, and I love those guys. They had the 24 guitars I ordered, the Multi-Swirl, which is a throwback to my Asylum era guitar. Very unique. I sell them on my, social media kind of thing through my contacts. And we had to get, ESP was going to ship them for me. So the packages were put together. Guitars were signed as such. Everyone at ESP now that by Tuesday, the chatter was there already, that this could get weird. That right after I left there, I had an interview with A&E, a documentary that's supposed to come out later this year in 2020 for KISS. Okay, which I was really happy I was able to squeeze into that quick LA trip, because I flew back that night. Still a little concerned, barely 30 people on the flight because it was a night flight from Burbank. Next morning, Tom Hanks is the face of COVID-19, right? And that night, NBA, okay, no people in the crowd, and then they just postponed the whole thing, right? And as you know, by then it was impossible to find toilet paper.
What was with the toilet paper thing?
Yeah. And the rest of this, what I like to refer to just to be a comical, comment on the situation, the shit show started. Okay. What I mean? Because it totally is a shit show. I mean, there's no way to you can't really put honey on it, or you can find the silver lining. And unfortunately, look, I like to say this to a lot of my people, and I'll share it with you. First of all, do I fear the virus? Yeah, I mean, I'm 66. I've had some health issues in my life, which is not uncommon. And do I want to get this thing? No. Okay. Do I fear it? To a degree. And I do, as much as I listen to the news, so which means I get some of the political stuff, which hits me to the point where my head explodes. I have some really dear doctor friends who are on the front lines. I have some chemist friends who, and actually through my wife's son, who's married to a wonderful girl who's very bright. Her mom's an infectious disease person. You know what I mean? There's people, scientists that I'm telling you that I can talk to. And I know a few KISS fans of mine who are chemists and things like that. So they are not politically, kind of opinionated. They're talking science about this virus. Okay. So I've always felt like I've been pretty well informed, and maybe more than your average person that may not have access to that. And I don't have any secrets to tell anybody. Everyone should take care, in my opinion. Honestly, I've been working very, very hard to really imagine something like this in my lifetime. I never did. And it's been at first a lot of, emotional stress, and then acceptance, and then trying to figure out, well, how do I, make the most of this, and at the same time, hopefully flourish or at least, lessen the pain of not having the income that a musician like myself gets from traveling and working and performing live. But it's really driven me to work very hard. I try to focus by keeping busy, trying again to take advantage of a lot of the things that would be something that I can do at home, as opposed to bookending my life with travel gigs and events. So it's been a new world of arranging all that. But I am healthy, and so is my wife, Lisa, and I've put her to work quite a bit because she sings great, you know what I mean? And obviously she's busy with her other stuff too. But it's been, a positive thing. I have a home that I love to be in, and I'm always sad to leave it when I travel. So I can't leave it. You know what I mean? I even just to go out for, I call it hunting and gathering, which is really going out for the groceries or picking up the business mail or dropping off mail. Being home with Lisa is one of the silver linings. And so is having that time to really, play with all my guitars and figure out, well, if I'm going to do this, what would be the best guitar for this? Oh, I haven't changed strings on this one in maybe 20 years. I swear I was changing guitar strings on KISS touring guitars. So, the last time I might have used it could be a very, very long time ago. Okay. We're talking about 95. All right. So, that's really been interesting. But it's been a whole process of adapting, I call it the new normal, which is weird. I know this morning we got up early to go get some groceries, and it was very successful, fortunately, but the routine that we go through, bringing the groceries in and being careful with it all and then disinfecting things and putting things away properly, that the first maybe 5 times, just things that are so easy, become so cumbersome. And then disinfecting the car and cleaning the handles and the steering wheel. I mean, we wore gloves and a mask, but you get what I mean. But like today, it's become the new norm. And it's kind of crazy to think that this enemy is like, wow, you know what I mean? It's smaller than a grain of, sand. And a lot of the information I think that was shared originally was probably valid until they watched everything actually happen that they weren't sure that happened, meaning young people like yourself could be affected to the point where you get a stroke or you have a limb removed. It's not just over 60 years old that you're in danger, although, of course, any viral thing and anything that's a lung issue would be really bad for seniors. We all know that. And then the economic distress that this has caused, how many people. There will be every week. I think those unemployment numbers are going to climb to like a very historic. But then again, in our lifetime, outside of terrorist attack in 2001, there's been nothing like this in my lifetime. Yeah, my parents went through World War II, and my grandparents had World War I and running from Europe. I know your history. You probably have relatives you ran from over there to start a new life in North America. But this is great. And the fact that it's worldwide, this enemy is bizarre,
If you guys like this video, make sure to subscribe for more. Everything on this channel is completely original. I'm the one doing all the videos and all the editing. So if you guys like what you see and you want to support me, the best way to do so is honestly just to subscribe. Thanks for watching.